Okay, so we're going to start on kind of our final concept for Unit 1, which is on founding documents. And we're going to end up talking about the ultimate founding document, which is our Constitution, and understanding kind of how we came to the document that is our Constitution. So by the end of these notes, you should be able to explain ideas expressed in the preamble of the Constitution, pre being before, so it's actually the 52-word passage at the beginning of the Constitution, and then discuss provisions or changes of the Constitution that provide for the representative government that we have today. So it's all understanding what's in the document now and how it applies to us. So the drafting of the Constitution started a while before this, but the actual sit down and let's get this done was in 1787 with the Philadelphia Constitutional Convention, where about 50 men joined forces to revise the weak and ineffectual Articles of Confederation, learning from those and saying, okay, we need to make some decisions about two big debates: the role of the national government and balancing the federal government's power and the state power, and then the other debate being that of representation and how the people and how ultimately the states are represented in that big federal government. So first, let's talk about this preamble. I've got the passage for you, 52-word beginning paragraph of the Constitution right here. And if you read it, you can see some takeaways for you to understand is that it's vague. It leaves many aspects up for interpretation. I mean, it's only 52 words, right? And it's supposed to guide our country. But one of the aspects up for interpretation includes who it applied to and who is left out. And we learn from history that it's white men that are creating this Constitution. So women and slaves and Native Americans who were pushing further and further west and out of our minds, right, are left out of the we the people of the United States, and that these don't really apply to those groups. There were some compromises that happened to allow for the ratification of the Constitution, and one of the biggest ones is about representation. Okay, so this is, again, we're focusing in on representation and how the states are represented in the big federal government. So we have some states that are arguing about how they're going to be represented in the legislative branch, which is now our Congress. So Virginia over here in this bluish purplish, they come up with a plan that proposes that the number of state senators and representatives in the legislative branch should be based on population. Well, why would they say this? Well, because Virginia is a very large state. They were very big and thought, because we have more people, we should have more power. Well, the little states, like New Jersey, disagreed because that left them weak compared to the big population states. So New Jersey came up with a plan proposing that each state have the same number of representatives and senators no matter the size, right? So staunchly different and opposing plans there. So the Great Compromise over here on the right, creating today's U.S. Congress, is a bicameral legislative branch. That is, having two houses of representatives. And in our Congress, in our legislative branch, we call that the House of Representatives, here on the right, which is based on population. So that takes the Virginia plan and puts it in action. So the higher population states have more representatives. And then we have the other side of the bicameral House, which is the Senate. And that says that we have every state has two senators no matter their size. And any law that is passed, because that's the goal of the legislative branch, has to be passed by both of these. Okay, so that's the ultimate compromise in that one is based on population, one is not, but both houses have to pass the law in order for the bill to become a law. Another big constitutional compromise is that of population, right? Because that really comes back and impacts what we were talking about back here with the legislative branch. So in the South, they had a huge population of slaves. So the South said they need to count for representation. We have all of these people. Well, the North was saying, you don't even treat these human beings as people. So you treat them as property. Therefore, they should be taxed as property and should not count towards your population, right? They should not count towards your representation in the Senate or in the House of Representatives. So the compromise they came to eventually was called the 3/5 compromise, and determined that slaves shall count as 3/5 of a person, which means that for every 5 slaves, 3 of them count towards that state's population. So this is kind of part 1, I guess you could say, of our understanding the Constitution and how we came to that document. Go ahead and answer the summary question at the bottom of your notes and make sure that you get your teacher to stamp your notes.